Sentinel Online. Now loading the Geekcast radio network of podcasts.
Stay calm, man. Ma'am?
Flying over the middle of the Rubal-Khali Desert, looking for some lost city in the sand. Next thing I know, plane's going down. I'm hanging like a rag doll at 30,000 feet, just trying to hold on.
And a plague on every corner. When half the city hated me, and the other half wanted me dead. He brought out my good side.
I'm telling you, war has changed. So you do what you have to. I'm no hero. But whatever good I've done, it was him.
It was in the days of suffering when the gods made their might known. When no mortal dared stand up to Zeus. He did.
Omaha. Pinned down on that godforsaken beach. Thinking if I lay there, I'll maybe die. But if I get up, there ain't no maybe about it. Then one man broke through. Michael.
When the Templars murdered my family. When the whole bloody world's gone crazy.
Hellcat, Sector 9!
To Michael!
To Michael!
For all he does.
For all of us. To Michael! To Michael! To Michael! To Michael!
GeekCastRadio.com presents GCRN WarZ. Two geek topics will be challenged. The ultimate battle will come to pass. One shall stand, one shall fall.
Hello and welcome to the 14th episode of GCRN WarZ. I am your host, Optimus Solo, one of your hosts, and joining me for this war is Steve Megatron Phillips. Hello, Steve.
Hello.
Mr. Powers, hello.
Hello.
Mike the Birdman Dodd.
Greetings, mortals!
And I believe you've brought somebody with you.
He's just kind of in the room right now. He's like,
hey!
He doesn't know nearly enough as we thought he did.
I'll pipe in.
It's Dodd's underpants gnome.
He can help me he can help me in being a force to break any type of tie, I guess, or whatever. All right, so today we're going to tackle an interesting and polarizing geek argument, specifically in the video game realm. Which is ultimately better, PlayStation or Xbox? So this is the tip-off to a bunch of video game coverage that we'll be doing here in the coming months and year. So just before we get to the actual categories that we have broken down, because we're going to go over 15 categories, and for those of you that don't know, on GCRN WarZ, we go category by category. We kind of give our thoughts, our ideas on what would be better, and then we each cast a vote as to which side ultimately wins. And then by the end, we'll tally up the votes in the 15 categories and crown an actual winner. This is not one of the actual categories, but for example, we might say who has the better name, who has the better logo. Those are things we've used in the past, but we have some video game specific ones looking at PlayStation and Xbox. Birdman, before we start, just initial thoughts at comparing these two companies.
Well, it all comes down to brand marketing for me, because I've got a background in public relations, and I always look at which company has worked with the public the most. And out of the gate, I would say Xbox might be the better company, but I don't know if that holds up necessarily on the software end, but maybe on legacy. It's hard to argue with the success of a franchise juggernaut like Halo, but PlayStation has a huge advantage because of 3 letters, GTA, and that was an exclusive to them for a very long time, but also kind of hurt them in terms of controversy. While it endeared them to the gamer, it didn't endear them to the public. You're going to find more people empathetic to Master Chief as opposed to Tommy Vercetti or Nico Bellic.
Steve, how do you view this, and kind of what's your stance, or what was your take going into this before we actually look at the categories and how one category might break down compared to another? Just in general, what do you think of the two in your personal experience?
I like them both, but for different reasons. Some of them being gaming, some of them being some of the reasons we'll get into later. But I've played the PlayStation. I've owned a PlayStation 2. I've played the PS3. I've played the original Xbox. I own the 360. So I mean, in that sense, I have enjoyed what I've used of them. But I don't know. It's going to kind of be a toss up of which one I overall choose.
We'll have to see as we go through, based on these 15 categories, what it ends up being for you. Mr. Powers there. I just like calling you Mr. Powers. I don't know why.
That's fine.
How do you tackle this without actually breaking down the categories, looking at it from a personal standpoint?
From a personal standpoint, I'm just going to come right out the gate, and, I am a PlayStation fanboy. I have been since 1997. That fandom pushed me away from the original Xbox, which I did not hurt my gaming culture in any way, shape, or form. But I do have strong opinions on the Xbox brand and the PlayStation brand as a whole. I try to play the middle of the field because I have both. I'm not one of the people that needs to, I don't make a purchase and then have to justify my purchase to the mass public in arguments. I can see the faults and the advantages in both systems, but I am a dyed-in-the-wool Sony fanboy. I will always go with their console first over competitors, for better or worse. So,
all right. Well, it sounds like we have one person who initially thinks some positive things about Xbox, one person on PlayStation side, one person down the middle. I'm not saying that's like how it's going to play out, but from initial comments, I am going to be more of listening to who has the better argument. I have much less experience with these games. I'm just mainly here to facilitate the conversation and cast a vote on which side has made a better argument. I guess I'd be called a Nintendo fanboy, maybe. I don't even know if that's accurate, though. I'm much more of an old school iconic, like Commodore 64, the Intellivision, and some of the original Nintendo stuff. I've not been in the gaming community much in the last decade, so that kind of eliminates me from a lot of the Xbox, PlayStation talk. Mr. Dennis, what do you like better?
I'm going to have to be the weird one and go with Sega.
You just had to be strange, didn't you?
Yep.
Well, if we're not going to take this seriously, then neither am I.
Go get a Atari.
But we will break it down, mainly keep it focused on Xbox and PlayStation going forward. Our first category is looking at basically which company has had the more iconic or notable or the best characters overall. So if you think about PlayStation, and you think about which characters from the PlayStation world come to your mind, and then you do the same thing with Xbox, which group of characters stands out more to you? Do you like better? And kind of go from there. Birdman, since you started with the initial thoughts, why don't you start with this one? Which company has had the better library of characters? Just characters. Doesn't matter if they're in crappy games, good games, or what type of games. Just which has.
We're talking pretty much exclusive to the particular console, right?
Well, I mean, it somewhat defeats the purpose if the characters appeared in both, unless they were more of a staple maybe at one, and then later on it kind of filtered to both. But I can kind of let you go with it, and we'll see where we go with it.
I would argue that PlayStation, because you look at the success they've had with the Grand Theft Auto franchise, which was exclusive to them for a really long time. You would look at stuff like, say, the Metal Gear series with, Solid Snake and all them. This past console generation, you've had Nathan Drake, you've had Kratos, you've had Ellie and Joel from The Last of Us. In terms of Xbox exclusive franchises, their only really huge contribution, as far as I'm concerned, is Master Chief from the Halo franchise. But arguably, Halo has entered it's pretty much part of pop culture slang. Like, whenever you talk about a first-person shooter, the first thing you think about is Call of Duty or Halo. And Call of Duty is available on both consoles, for example, but you think of a COD player, you think of Xbox Live. You don't necessarily think of the PC players, for better or worse, or the PlayStation players, or basically PlayStation players in general. You always think of the Xbox Live frat boy douchebag.
Hey.
True. Which sucks. Like, I'm loving Advanced Warfare right now. My God. But I'm honestly going to have to say PlayStation. They've made more memorable characters from franchises. Also, how can I miss Ratchet and Clank? Stuff like that, too. Jak and Daxter.
Sly.
Like, there's so many memorable characters on that side. Like I said, Microsoft, not the Master Chief, but you also have a marketing juggernaut there. Because we're getting the Halo Nightfall TV series, which should be out by now. We've had Halo Forward Unto Dawn. The Halo movie's been rumored forever. There's supposed to be a Halo TV series, I think, on Showtime in the next year or two. I don't know, but judging purely on library and exclusives alone, PlayStation's got this one, hands down.
Michael, what would you add? What other characters haven't we talked about that you'd throw in that would weigh on either side?
Well, first of all, he's not wrong. Sony, I mean, they were around for one generation longer than the Xbox was, than Microsoft was. So, I mean, their stable of characters is, they own the most iconic characters out of these two. And honestly, I would hesitate to. I mean, there's an argument to be made. It could possibly be, stable number of iconic characters. They could have the most out of the three companies. But better, no. But the most, yes. I have to agree with him. It's the PlayStation, because when I think of an Xbox, the only thing that I can think of that's actually exclusive to them is Halo, and it's weird for a system that's been around for 13 years to only have one like IP that they're known for. They've had like lots of little like false starts and stuff, but Halo is the only one that's like latched on, and luckily it's been able to transcend developers, which usually doesn't happen.
I guess you could make an argument for Gears of War.
You know what? Yeah,
not so much.
Well, they own Gears now, so I guess you could say that, but it's not. Gears is not the same thing as Halo.
Yeah.
So, and we'll see how that transcends developers.
And more people can name Master Chief as opposed to Marcus Phoenix.
Yeah.
Are we missing any other characters that are of note from the PlayStation side? I know you guys mentioned Ratchet and Clank, Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper.
You could throw in. I wouldn't hesitate to throw in Crash Bandicoot.
Yep, that was what I was going to throw in.
Spyro. I mean, they don't belong to Sony anymore. They actually belong to Universal now, or I'm sorry, Activision. But they started out as Sony franchises. In fact, Crash Bandicoot was Naughty Dog's. So, Resistance is another one. They also have Killzone.
Killzone, yeah. Anybody who was in PlayStation All Stars, basically.
Pretty much,
gotcha.
yeah.
Rapper the Rapper.
Yep. But
Steve,
go
ahead.
So no, it's all right. I'm on Sony's side firmly on this one.
Gotcha. Steve, are you in agreement? Is this one going to be like a unanimous category where it's easy to pick?
I think so. I mean, Xbox doesn't really have that much going for it in this area. I think Sony's really going to slam dunk it. They have Final Fantasy, they have all the Mega Man X series.
Well, Mega Man X started on the Super Nintendo.
It did, but then when it went to disc-based, it went right to PlayStation.
Yeah.
It didn't go to Sega, of any kind.
Saturn or anything. Yeah, it stayed exclusively on the...
It stayed exclusive to PlayStation after it jumped ship from Nintendo, so there's that, and then you have your Namco, Konami type games that pop up. So I definitely say PlayStation wins this slam dunk.
All right. Well, then there's not much of a need to go any further with the characters, since that one would solidify it for PlayStation. Now, we're going to get into some games for a little while. We'll eventually talk generations, and we'll talk some other things, but we're going to do a good number of game categories in a row. I think about 5 in a row, or 6 in a row. So we'll get into the more specific types of games, but in the first category, I just want to go over diversity of their library as it speaks. This could be, something that would have a wide appeal. Which company has done a better job having a very large and diverse library of games? Because I know that's one thing that sometimes certain consoles can get criticized for. And not just not enough games, or it's not just about who has more games, but who has a more diverse collection in their library, I guess. And Michael Powers, I'll let you go first on this one. Who has a better library? I know PlayStation's been around a little bit longer, but I mean, even if you were to look at the ones that were directly competing against each other, and in those years, maybe, if that's the fairest way to look at it.
Well, let's be honest here. I mean, Microsoft's the only console out there that had the Burger King games on them, so it's got to go to Microsoft, because they had the most. I mean, they have those. That's 4 games Sony will never have. No, I don't know. This is kind of weird, because you have to look at a lot of franchises got their start from Sony, and there wasn't a whole lot of deviation in terms of GTA was a Sony franchise, Final Fantasy was a Sony franchise, until the PS3 hit, and it wasn't the, Sony realized they couldn't sell a $600 box to people, and when that happened, those developers were like, wait, okay, now we need to break exclusivity and make this game for multiple platforms. So as far as more diverse games go, they pretty much have the same. If you're comparing, like, I don't know, this is really tricky. I think they have the same diversity in games, because if Xbox has Halo, PlayStation has Killzone, so that's like both a shooter. I mean, they've got their pros, whatever, the devil's advocate to each game that they make, and I don't know. I honestly would think that that's a tie, because I think you can find just about anything you want on each system. If you want a racing game on the 360, you go with Forza. If you want a racing game on a PlayStation system, you go with Gran Turismo. You can argue.
I think if this was just on volume, on number of games, I think that would be a different conversation, and probably an easier one, a little more black and white. Working at somewhere that's sold games, for 9 years, and working directly in that department, we always had more shelf space dedicated to PlayStation than any of the other video game companies. They just had more games available. So if it was just strictly on like a number of games, that would be one thing. But I guess if we're talking diversity, it could be easier to find a similar standpoint from both companies. Dad, do you agree, or do you think one has a better diversity?
I would actually disagree, because Xbox has one huge advantage over PlayStation here. Xbox Live. When you look at all the downloadable titles available there, plus with the Kinect sensor having, I think, a year and a half lead over the PlayStation Move, plus Kinect development was active a lot longer than PlayStation Move development was. I mean, they really dropped the ball on that tech, which really sucks, because I thought it was really good. Just underutilized. You look at music games, for example. PlayStation started that genre, and arguably they had more available, because they had the Guitar Hero series, there was American Idol, they had SingStar, which
DDR
4 version, DDR, DJ Hero, Rock Band, and even lesser known ones. But Xbox Live opened up indie development, where you could purchase games from indie developers, and there's so much weird variety on there.
But those games are all. But the problem is, those games are all now available on the PlayStation.
Not all of them.
What is it?
And that's the thing, though. It took Sony so long to open up the PlayStation Network development kits, so people could program games for PlayStation. And if you look at indie titles on PlayStation compared to Xbox, at least on the 360.
Can you name one?
Off the top of my head, no. Off the top of my head, but early on, Microsoft had them beat hands down. Now, that being said, PlayStation is doing more now with their Vita in independent platforms than I've seen any company take a risk with in a really long time. And PlayStation would win handheld, without a doubt, outside of the 3DS, because there was talk of a Microsoft handheld for a while, but we'll talk about that later. I also think of all the different Kinect games. Like, for example, on my Xbox One right now, I have a game called Fantasia Music Evolved. I don't know whether that's out on PlayStation 4. I'm pretty sure it's not.
It's not, but then that game had, I don't know. I just don't count that as a game.
It's great. It's friggin' fantastic. Plus, I like the fact that you can do different things with the PlayStation, or not with the PlayStation, with the Xbox One. For example, both systems have cameras, PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. I'm playing a game called Just Dance 2015 right now. I can play with my cell phone, using it as a motion sensor, which is kind of using it kind of like how PlayStation 4 would use it as, their PlayStation Move thing. So, if I had to say better diversity, I'm going to say Microsoft, because I think they took a risk longer, and you look at the amount of Kinect games it had, for better or worse, compared to PlayStation Move. I think Microsoft takes it, but just barely.
Steve, what about you?
I don't know. I'm kind of in agreement with that, but at the same time, I would almost argue that PlayStation has more of a diverse range. I mean, you have all the sports games, you have all the music stuff. Granted, it's
they're all cross-platform.
Yeah, I mean, everything's cross-platform, but one, they've been around an entire generation longer. Two, it seems like PlayStation seems to get the longest running as far as constant releases, even on their older generation systems, because their libraries for all of them are huge by comparison to Xbox.
I think it's cheaper to license on PlayStation as well.
Which it may be entirely, but it just seems like that their library is so large that it's almost hard to beat. I would almost argue that they're the number one in diversity, just because they have the large library. I mean, you have the first person shooters, you have the sports, you have the music, you have the the adventure, you have the kind of RPG type stuff, you have your almost side scroller, like with the Mega Man type stuff, you have some kind of kiddish games on it, but not to the extent that some of the motion stuff is, but it's there.
See, and the thing, sorry to interrupt, Steve, but when you're talking about the motion controls and we're talking about diversity in games, I don't really think the Kinect gives the 360 or Microsoft that much of a leg up, because I feel like, yeah, the Kinect is a completely different technology set than the Move, but they both still have the same set of games. You can get Just Dance on the PlayStation, and you can get it on the Kinect.
But you can't get Dance Central.
So it's still one dancing game is the same as the next. It's the same thing. It's like I said, you can get Forza on Microsoft system, or you can get Gran Turismo on a PlayStation system. It's the same type of game. Like, just because they have a different name doesn't make one more diverse than the other. That's what I'm talking about.
Because I mean, I'm not even going to count as far as the motion part's concerned, because that's a later category in this. But I would just argue that overall, I would say that I think PlayStation has the more diverse, better library, only because one, they've been around longer, and two, it seems like they just have the more memorable association with some of those games, even though some of them may be cross-platform. It seems like people associate them more so with PlayStation than they do with Xbox.
I think this is probably the hardest thing to compare of these two companies. Mainly because I think this is what has made both of them as successful as they are. this is, I think, the biggest complaint that, and this is coming from someone who obviously loves Nintendo, but that's the biggest complaint or biggest argument for a PlayStation or an Xbox over a Nintendo is the diversity that their libraries give you. Maybe not as true today as it was maybe a decade ago, but I know when, stuff like the, GameCube and especially in the original Wii, when that came out, the lack of diversity was something that people argued against Nintendo. I know Nintendo doesn't have anything to do with this, but my point is that's something that Xbox and PlayStation both do pretty well, is give you a very diverse, large body of games to choose from that can appeal to a lot of people. That's why I think, Michael is right in a lot of sense where, they both have their racing games, they both have their sports games, they both have their, different types of fighting games, etc. So it gets harder to compare it. I don't know if PlayStation just wins based on the number of games they have and maybe their library is larger.
I'd say it comes down to downloadable stuff, because Xbox has a so much larger, plus that community is always actively developing. To find a lot of indie games on PlayStation 4, there aren't that many.
I don't know that I can't get behind that one, because I can't any notable indie game that isn't garbage is on both systems.
Well, yeah, but they may have got their start on Xbox.
But still, that same game is available on the PlayStation. That doesn't make the Microsoft more diverse because they had it first. It's available on both.
Xbox, stop listening. Sorry, I'm using my Kinect right now.
I think this is a tough one. Steve, you're looking like you're leaning towards a vote for PlayStation?
Yeah.
And I believe, Birdman, if I'm hearing right, you're voting Xbox on this.
Yep.
And Powers, so you were kind of on the fence. Which way are you going?
Xbox, unsnap. Asshole.
That's a great Kinect promo. Glad this is all in
Shut
there.
up!
Xbox, turn off. Yes.
Shut up! Shut up!
Did it do it?
No, well, clearly I'm still talking. I hate you.
Powers, which way do you think you're going?
See, I think I think it's equal. I don't think one has a more diverse library than the other. But because I'll give this to Dodd, because there is one game that I can think of in the Xbox indie library that is not on the PlayStation. Only one, and that is Super Meat Boy.
All right.
So I'll give it to Microsoft.
Okay.
The many Smash keyboards.
It might be a little bit easier as we get into some specific types of games and genres. And I know there's a gazillion different genres of games and types of games, and there's some kind of blurry lines as to what separates some of them. But we'll try to do this the best we can. I think it's a little bit easier once you start looking at it, because even though you said, just for an example, like you said, one might have Forza for a racing game on one where the other has Gran Turismo, that doesn't mean we can't compare those two and say which one is better. That's not necessarily one of the examples we'll be using, but that's the type of stuff we're getting into now. So even though they both have games that speak to that type of genre, which one does that type of game better? And the first one is we're going for more of the kids games, like the earlier aged games, maybe educational, maybe not. But as far as if you were trying to define it as kids games, which company does kids games better? And we'll start with Powers on this one.
Can I put a vote in for Nintendo?
Yes, Nintendo would win this and a couple other categories hands down, but we'll try to avoid that as much as possible. We were going to put in the which does better handheld units and just give it to Nintendo, but they're not a competitor in this one. So, out of PlayStation and Xbox, which one does kids games better?
Man, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
One because I'm not a parent, and so I have never looked at kids games. I just kind of treat all games as equal. I mean, I will play I will play a Lego game, if it's fun.
Well, I know you were mentioning some characters before, like, Ratchet and Clank and Sly and.
Okay, thank you for that, because I don't, for some reason, I don't think of these as like kids games. I think of them as games that I play. Right. Again, it comes back to what Microsoft is known for, and it's sports, it's Gears of War, it's Call of Duty, it's like Dodd said, it's the frat boy in all of us. That's that's what a Microsoft system is known for. granted, we haven't seen. Well, no, Ratchet and Clank and Sly are still around. So I would given that, and I haven't seen anything outside of like Viva Pinata or Connect Sports or Connect Adventures recently, and that's all recent with the advent of the Connect. But I don't think those games stack up to like Sly and Ratchet and Clank. So I'm going to go with PlayStation.
Dot, argument against or for?
I would be in agreement, yeah, because Xbox really only has Viva Pinata and maybe a few other small games, because everything else is pretty much cross-platform. I can't think of any exclusive children. Okay, no way. There was a Disney adventure for Connect for the 360. I think that was 2 years ago.
Yep.
It
Sesame
was.
Street.
A lot of those Connect games, though, as far as the
Disney one wasn't bad. I tried that out at a press event a couple years ago.
It's not bad, but on actual use, because my wife wanted it, just because we play a lot of the mini games on a lot of that kind of stuff. It's ungodly difficult to control because you have to move your arms like above your head and behind your back to move forward and sideways. And
yeah, the 360 Connect technology just wasn't there yet. Arguably, with the one, it's getting there. So yeah, honestly, I'd have to agree with Mike there. The PlayStation just has a wider variety. Although I'd argue Viva Pinata is a lot of fun, but it's not the other games that are meant for E10 for everybody.
Steve, unanimous on this one, or is there an argument that we haven't heard for Xbox?
I think it's going to be unanimous, only because it's a lot of it's just cross-platform, and there's a couple of uniques to PlayStation that Xbox doesn't have. But I don't think that Xbox really. I don't think that it really is any less kid-friendly, but I don't think that it really has the amount of games that PlayStation has for it.
In fairness to this, I'm not changing my side or anything, but I feel like just the way the Xbox marketing is, it's very much, like I said, it's the frat boy.
It's all dude bro.
Yeah, they don't market their kids games. They don't.
Right. No, they market towards the 18 to 35.
It's almost like Nintendo directly gears towards the younger audience. Xbox intentionally gears towards the older audience, and PlayStation attempts to do both in a way. Not saying that it doesn't gear a lot of them towards an older audience, but it doesn't necessarily shy away from the kids maybe as much as Xbox seems to. But that's coming from someone who's very ignorant on this topic, so I maybe just sound stupid. But it seems like we have a unanimous vote for PlayStation when it comes to kids games. Let's flip it to the other side of the equation then. And we're talking about exclusively mature ratings on games, mature or above. I don't know if there is an above mature rating. Does it get...
Nope.
Okay. So as far as like the mature rating games for strictly for adults, which system does that better? And I don't have any knowledge about these games whatsoever or who has better ones. So you guys got to educate me here. So Dad, why don't you start on that one?
I'm trying to think here. Once again, there's a lot of cross-platform.
Right.
But I think PlayStation once again takes this, because you look at, they had Resident Evil for the longest time. It was exclusive. I mean, sure, there were reports of the Dreamcast and the GameCube later on, but you look at the mature games that were good. A lot of them came out of PlayStation, Xbox. I think of Halo. I think of Gears of War. I guess you could make... I think MechWarrior was T for teen. I don't know whether it was M for mature or not off the top of my head.
Is Halo even M? I'm being serious.
What? Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't think of why, but okay.
Well, if there is blood, you can blow people up. So.
Oh, okay.
Well, there's Mass Effect and Unreal Tournament. And...
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I think... Yeah, I mean, and especially last console generation, and even this one, you look at a game like The Last of Us as a console exclusive, if there ever was a really good use of the M rating, that's it. It's a gorgeous game inside and out.
How many Grand Theft Auto games were exclusive to PlayStation, or are they all available in both?
They're all cross-platform now.
Nope.
Oh, well, I guess Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories, right?
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I was also thinking of Grand Theft Auto and Grand Theft Auto 2, which haven't appeared on anything else.
But are those have all had mature ratings, I assume?
I think so.
Yeah, all the Grand Theft Autos have.
Gotcha.
And I think all the Metal Gears have been M as well.
Yep.
I'm not 100% sure on that one, so don't quote me on that.
Which all of those outside of Revengeance have been Sony exclusives.
Yeah.
So, Powers, are you supporting?
No, Metal Gear Sons of Liberty was ported.
Oh, well,
and it was ported in the
Snakes.
HD collection last year.
And Twin Snakes.
Yeah, and Twin Snakes.
Never mind. I'm an idiot.
But initially, yeah, I think PlayStation gets it. Plus, you look at the weird mature fighting games that come out on over there too.
Over there.
Yeah, over there on the PlayStation.
On left field.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, sure, there's a lot of bad M-rated games, but there's also some real gems too. Another one that's a PlayStation exclusive, I'm pretty sure still is the Legacy of Kain series.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, and Xbox don't have that. I think they might have something now, but I'm not sure.
Was Tomb Raider even M-rated?
Yeah.
I think it is, yeah.
It is.
Well, the new one is for sure.
I know the new one is.
Are we missing anything on the Xbox side?
No, that's the thing. And I'm glad we're doing this, if you keep it just strictly exclusives, like if you take out Mass Effect, you take out Fallout and Assassin's Creed and stuff like that, Sony's going to win a lot of these hands down when you're talking about games, because they have the better exclusives in a lot of respects, and a lot of the exclusives tend to be mature rated games. So I'm going to go with Sony.
All right, Steve, what do you think? In agreement again? Do we have another?
I can't argue with their points.
All right. Then looks like another clean sweep for PlayStation with the mature games. We'll switch to a different genre. A few more to go through here. If we're looking at RPGs and anything within that realm, which, again, you guys are more educated than I am on all the different variations of different types of RPGs, is there a clear winner in this one again, or is it closer?
I will say I'll just jump in here. I will throw out Final Fantasy VII, and I'll throw out the Kingdom Hearts series, and Sony wins both of those. So
those are two big ones.
Exclusive.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead with Sony on this one.
One of the things that Sony has an advantage with, they get a lot of JRPGs.
Yep.
That necessarily don't make it over here, or they only get released on one console. So,
that's kind of what I was going after.
Yeah, I mean, like, in terms of really good RPGs, but the thing is, once again, it's cross-platform, because I could have argued Mass Effect and Skyrim. Skyrim runs like shit on a PlayStation 3 when you run it on an Xbox 360.
Yep.
Comparison, but Mass Effect, I think, is one of the best games of this generation, but PlayStation never got Knights of the Old Republic, whereas Xbox did. So BioWare clearly has a bias. And Dragon Age is Dragon Age is not an exclusive.
No, it is not.
As far as I know. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Well, okay. Oh wait, hang. I think Dragon Age and Dragon Age 2 might be.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I've seen them for the PlayStation 3.
But are 3 BioWare games enough to trump Square Enix's library of RPGs?
I don't know. Final Fantasy 13, Lightning Returns, and all that bullshit.
Well, you've got 12 games to talk to. And
the Final Fantasy 13 series is a lot to turn me off, but I think PlayStation would get this again because of JRPGs. There's so many, and there's a lot of underrated gems there, too. Plus, when you look at the PlayStation Network, you can go back and get Chrono Trigger. You can go back and get other games that had appeared on older consoles, but you can't get that on Xbox.
Public service announcement. Please, no one play Chrono Trigger on a PlayStation system. Play it on a Super Nintendo or a Nintendo DS. Do not.
But it's cool to see the cutscenes, though.
You can do that.
Nintendo's on the DS version, I think.
Yes.
No, you just watch them on YouTube when you get in between those points.
Okay. So, yeah.
All right.
I'm going to have to say PlayStation. JRPG wins this.
Steve, agree or no?
I agree.
It's becoming a broken record.
God damn it, Xbox. You're supposed to make this easier.
I know. I love Xbox, too, and that's the sad thing.
Maybe we'll switch with this next genre. Only two more ones as far as actual games there, and the next one could also include some of the stuff that we were talking about, I guess, before with the racing, but sports or you can widen it up. We're not just talking about obviously the ones that are going to be on both of them, like Madden's always going to be available on both, etc. But even if you widen it out to include racing, to include I don't know if there's different boxing or MMA type games, or even I guess some of the Connect and Move might have some like something similar to like what Wii Sports has, etc. So if you're looking at sports games in general, or how you define sports games might be a big factor in how you rule this genre. Where would you go with sports games, Dad?
Well, and you said we're including racing?
If that's sports, if that is it, when you think of sports, if you include that?
Yeah, that screams sports to me. So it's hard to say because Gran Turismo is really good, but Forza looks amazing year to year. Then again, so does Gran Turismo. I don't know. I don't think you can really.
Are there any of the main sport? Are there any of like if you're taking like football, baseball? I know basketball games are usually terrible, but if you take football, baseball, and basketball games, are there any that are not cross-platform?
No.
Okay.
No,
because I know that used to be a thing. It used to be a thing where like All-Star Baseball was only on PlayStation or whatever. Or that might be a bad example.
Okay. No, wait. There is. PlayStation has MLB. Show.
Oh, the show. Yeah, they have the baseball game.
And that's a really good baseball game.
That's the only baseball game, isn't it?
Now it is.
I think it might be, actually.
Yes, that is the only baseball game.
I think PlayStation also kind of covers all the other sports, whereas I think Microsoft covers, or with the Xbox, they cover like the main sports. You have your racing, you have your football, hockey, basketball, that kind of stuff, but you don't really have as much of the other.
The sports one might have been easier to compare in the earlier consoles because wasn't it more of a thing back when they both were starting where they had exclusive companies that were doing sports games for each, and it was more
because like back then in the day you'd get like Dave Mira Pro BMX, Kelly Slater Pro Surfing.
Well, you used to have like All-Star Baseball, Triple Play Baseball. That
was across. What he's talking. But the Dave Mira stuff was cross-platform. But you're talking about 989 Studios, which was Sony's sports game. They made Sony sports games, and then there was 2K, who made sports games for at the time the Dreamcast, and then they made their games only for the Xbox, and then they started making their games for both systems. But the 2K Sports brand is gone now, and so is 989 Sports.
2K Sports is still around. They just put out 2K15.
Oh, okay. It's
horrible face scanning technology that produces monsters.
Okay. Well, I don't really.
It's terrifying.
I don't follow the sports scene too well, but they don't have the breadth of games that they had before. Like there is no NHL 2K anymore.
Yeah, it's all EA now.
Right. So I was actually ready to, until we brought up the show, MLB The Show on the PlayStation, I was actually ready to hand this off to Microsoft.
There is no clear Microsoft exclusive sports title, or if there is, it's not one you give a shit about.
Well, I was going to hand this off to Microsoft because in the early days of the 360 and the PS3, Microsoft consistently had the better of the two cross-platform games.
Definitely.
Madden traditionally ran at 60 frames a second for the right out the gate and for the second year, and the PS3 ran at 30 frames a second. And in sports and stuff like that, that matters. So, like, right up until I realized Sony had the only baseball game, I was ready to give it to Microsoft on a technicality. I don't know.
Well, if we're going to argue that, then you can look at PlayStation Network versus Xbox Live for online play for sports. If we're going to do that, most of the competitive sports, if they're played online, are played on Xbox consoles.
But if you take that into account, I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah. But if you take that into account, does that automatically mean that Microsoft could theoretically win another category here?
It depends on how we look at the criteria for this, but MLB The Show is a pretty convincing argument for better sports games. Once again, it comes down to first-party exclusive. Sony has a lot of really good partnerships.
If you go away from it, though, kind of trying to go off of what you guys were talking about, if you because we've been in the habit of just eliminating all the ones that are available on both consoles. If you own both a PlayStation console and an Xbox console, and you're a football fan per se, or whatever, basketball, baseball, and there is a game that's available on both, which system are you buying it for? Are you buying
I go
Madden
360 because you get a larger player base. You'll always get the updates first, and Xbox Live, it does have its fuck-ups, but odds are you'll have a smooth online experience.
And see that
Sony on the PS3 early on for any of their sports games, it was a bitch to find people.
So if sports is the only, let's say you're the type of gamer that literally sports is the only types of games you're going to play, would you buy an Xbox over a PlayStation?
That's so subjective. I say that because well, he's saying he could buy a sports game and play it on the 360 and he'll have an audience there. Like I could buy the same game and I could have a built-in audience with my friends. Like that's it's so subjective. That's why I was looking at like technicalities. Like it comes down to that. And even if you want to talk about who has the better racing game, you could look at Forza or you look at Gran Turismo, because those are the two marquee racing games for the two of them. And even that's subjective. Like I can't stand the look of Forza, but I love the look of Gran Turismo. However, Forza also has two Forza franchises, one for the hardcore sim guy and the other one for like the arcade, I just want to mess stuff up, and Gran Turismo has no answer to that. So if you take Forza as a franchise and you take the whole the technicality of Madden running better, having better support early on in the 360's life cycle, I could still give it to Microsoft. But then again, it depends, how much does baseball matter to you?
Steve, what do you think? See, I don't know. Like
I'm almost gonna go Microsoft only for the fact that I just like how smooth the games play better on the console.
I also like the controller better to play certain games.
That's another category later on too. But that's another thing that kind of impacts it, is that I don't feel the muscle strain.
That could be an argument. I mean, me personally, I used to play Madden, but if it was right now, I would only play baseball games because that's the only sports games I've played in the last probably 5 or 6 years.
The only place you could get that is the PlayStation.
Right. So I mean, I would be tempted to do that, but let's say I'm not a baseball fan. If I'm a sports gaming fan and games run better on Xbox, which it seems like you guys are saying, at least in some cases, I don't know if that's enough to sway me over to that side or not. But see what you guys come down to when it comes to your official vote and what weighs mostly towards one or the other for you. Birdman, if you had to cast a vote, where are you going for sports games?
I would say Microsoft, simply because Xbox Live, when it comes to, it's got a better install base for those types of games. It's easier to find games there. Once again, that's subjective on your area, network connections. It's hard to say it, but I would probably go Xbox.
Steve? Going with you now, so you don't have to just agree. So you can't let them both vote the same and then take some of your thunder away.
As far as what the
sports games,
the sports games, I'm gonna go Xbox.
Powers?
I'm gonna go Microsoft as well, but I'm not gonna go the subjective route that Dodd went. I'm just gonna go on the technicalities.
All right. Last group of genres of games, and I guess we've kind of been circling around this a lot as we get to the actual first-party games. It seems like we already kind of know where we're going with this. But as far as first-party games goes, is it a slam dunk for PlayStation?
I don't want to go first.
Dad?
Yes.
Oh, God, there's no arguing with it. Like I said, I love Gears and I love Halo, but I love The Last of Us. I love Uncharted.
Infamous.
Yeah, fucking right, Infamous. Like, man, Microsoft, you've done some amazing things, but
other people have done them.
Establishing IPs.
All right, Steve, do we need to make any arguments here, or is this one just a move on to the next one type one?
For the first party and everything? I'm going to go PlayStation only because I like DC Universe, which is Sony owned, and then various other games that have already been mentioned. So,
all right, getting just past the halfway point here into some different types of categories. We'll get away from the actual games a little bit and getting more into the hardware of things and then some of the other things that they offer. We've mentioned it a couple different times, so let's get into it a little bit more. When it goes to something like the PlayStation Plus or the Xbox Live, or a different way of thinking it, just if we're looking at online gaming in general, who has the better company and system when it comes to online gaming, or if you want to just specifically compare PlayStation Plus and Xbox Live? Michael Powers, why don't you start us off with this one?
I didn't want to go first because I know Don's going to jump down my throat.
That's the fun part of it.
Okay, here's the thing, and this is kind of how I feel about the 360 and Xbox Live. Hands down, total winner. There is no comparing Xbox Live on the 360, like none. The way that system worked was great. Now, the only knock I will give it is that they, up until recently, this year, all of their Netflix streaming and all that stuff was behind the paywall of Xbox Live, which means, with your subscription to Netflix, you also had to pay them, $50, $60. Also, if you could find it on special, $20 for, a live subscription. PlayStation Plus never did that. And PlayStation Online with the PS3 was a total mess. Absolute mess. All the way through the floor. Horrid. Never used it for anything. If I was going to play an online game in the 360 era, in the PS3 era, I played on the 360. I played single-player games on the PlayStation. As a subscription service, though, I enjoy PlayStation Plus more than Live because I feel like they give you more than Live does. Especially now since Live took all that stuff out from behind the paywall. Like, now you're just kind of paying for online gaming. But I feel that along this generation with the PS4 and the Xbox One, given that these were the only two generations with online gaming in them, I feel like the role is reversed. Kind of like how the roles of the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One have reversed from last generation, where PlayStation has the right marketing message going forward, which is like gamers first, and Microsoft came out the gate and it's been backpedaling ever since, trying to rectify their problems. I can't use Xbox Live on my One without wanting to throw my controller. I do not like the way it is set up at all. I feel like I can do things much faster on the PlayStation 4. Like they knew that they had screwed up the PlayStation 3's online experience so much that they had to improve on that, and I feel like they did, and I feel like Microsoft just made it more convoluted. Like, I still like it on the 360, hate it on the Xbox One.
Birdman, you have not jumped down his throat yet.
And I'm just gonna cast my. I'll just go right now because I don't really play my PlayStation 3 anymore, and I don't play the Xbox 360. And every time I turn on my Xbox One, I have to wait 45 minutes before I can start playing games. However,
something is fucked up with your Xbox One. Then,
yeah,
dude.
it's called taking 45 minutes to install a freaking game.
But that's not the fault of Xbox Live.
No, but it's their system and it's a piece of crap. Anyways,
yeah, still do install stuff on the PlayStation 4 too.
Okay. Anyways.
Yes.
Nice try, motherfucker.
No. Hang on. No, here's the thing. I installed Sunset Overdrive on my Xbox One. It is a 20 gigabyte game. It took me 45 minutes to install that stupid thing. Guess what? I installed Call of Duty. It took 5 minutes on my PS4. There is a problem. There.
Sounds like a setting somewhere, honestly, but okay.
I don't know Anyways,
all right.
I prefer the PS4 right now, so I'm just going to go right now on the PS4 side because they still have all the value of PlayStation Plus, and they've rectified a lot of their online issues from the PS3. A lot of them.
From previous generation Xbox 360, hands down, that's a winner. Xbox One to PS4, it gets a little more complicated, and it comes down to apps, actually. PlayStation 4 doesn't have a shit ton of them when it comes to using services. One thing that sways Xbox One for me is Skype. I'm talking to you in my living room on Skype right now. PlayStation 4 does not have that. However, most systems have Twitch streaming, which is a service where you can stream gameplay. The Xbox app for that particular service is twitchy as hell. The PlayStation 4 version, never had a problem with it, never crashes. Xbox One, I have trouble with it. When it comes to finding games, if I want a competitive COD game, I go Xbox One, because I know that, and you know why? Xbox pays for exclusivity to get the DLC first. Competitive gaming is almost always Xbox. Whenever you go to EVO, it's usually Xbox. Whenever you go to any of the big tournaments, it's almost always Xbox. Now, it may be certain for, let's say, fighting games. It's a little bit different. I prefer my stuff on PlayStation, honestly. Being stupid. There we go. But one of the things PlayStation does right, PlayStation Plus gives you so much crap. Oh my god, they give you so much. Xbox One has not figured out good games to give you yet. PS4 gives you 2 good games across every console. PS3, PS Vita, and PlayStation 4. So, it's kind of subjective here. Like, last generation, it was pretty cut and dry. This one, they're pretty evenly tied.
Yeah,
but I feel like I have a better social experience on Xbox One, but I have a better gaming experience with certain titles on PS4. Like,
the social experience, I think that's subjective because when each system, when I turn them on, I immediately go into a party. I don't interact with the community. And there's just more of my friends playing on PlayStation 4, so I can jump in a party with 8 people. Like, I'm not, Xbox One, I turn that on. None of my friends have an Xbox One, so I could go either like chat and play a game with 8 people, or I can go sit by myself on my Xbox One and do nothing. So that's really the whole social aspect of it. It's kind of, to me, is kind of subjective.
Okay, for me, if I had to bring it down to a competitive scene, Xbox, because I want to play against MLG level players in Halo, and the majority of them are going to be on Xbox.
Really, a Halo game on Xbox? I
want to play competitive level Killer Instinct, Xbox. Now that being said, I want to play competitive level Street Fighter. Probably going to have to go PlayStation 3 actually. So I don't know. If I want a good COD experience, I'm going to have to go Xbox. So this one, it's tough because I really like certain things about the PlayStation as well, because the way Xbox Live is set up, I'm in Canada, so I can't access some of the US apps. I could if I set up an Xbox account in the US and had it to my console, but it's a pain in the ass to do. Just trust me on this. For the PlayStation 4, it's like a 2-minute process. Bingo, bango, done. I can access the WWE Network in Canada. I can access Hulu. I can access HBO. All these great services. PlayStation makes it easier. This one, I'm going to say PlayStation right now. You get so much value for what you get. Plus, the thing that sways my vote the most is ease of apps. Yeah, that's pretty much what swings my vote. It's apps. Mostly because of Twitch and the WWE Network, stuff like that. It's so much easier to access on PS4.
Steve, do you have any experience with the online gaming
aspect? I feel dirty saying that, by the way.
Not really, only because I refuse to pay to play a game on the internet. Not that I wouldn't play the games on the internet, I refuse to pay for it. I've had experience playing on both PlayStation and Xbox, as far as the PlayStation 3 being on the PlayStation Network, and with my brother-in-law, and he plays Call of Duty and all that crap. So it wasn't, I don't know, I don't much care for a lot of the stuff that has to do with PlayStation, but like Xbox, I tended to like when they had the free weekends of the internet, and I played it. So, and I enjoyed that more on there. So, if I was going to actually do the cop-out vote, I would say Xbox, only because that's what I'm more familiar with.
Okay. Fair enough. And getting into the 9th category, and I know this is going to be a little bit up for debate as far as which generation maybe you look at and which console specifically, but if you're looking at the entire life of all the different Xbox consoles or all the different PlayStation consoles, we're looking at specifically at controllers with this category. I'm pretty sure if we were just looking at the original Xbox, it would lose this category. Maybe that's just me, but that was one of the worst controllers I've ever seen on any type of console.
Yes.
It was the most awkward as hell controller to hold.
But obviously they
Which
have
one was?
the original Xbox controller.
Yeah, the original S1 was shit.
Obviously they've all evolved over that, and I don't know if you want to look at where they're at right now, or if you just kind of want to look at an entire lifespan. But if you're looking at who's done controllers better, made them easier to handle, more functional, etc., maybe it's a hard one to control. Powers, how do you try to break this one down and maybe go generation by generation who had the better ones, or overall, if you're looking at the whole thing?
Okay. If you're going PlayStation to PlayStation 2 and Xbox, like if PlayStation by a generation by itself, obviously the PlayStation wins because it's it was the only one there. If you look at the Xbox and the PlayStation 2 controller is going to win because, well, let's face it, we just talked about how bad that controller was. Huh?
It was way more comfortable.
Yeah. So that one wins. When you get to the 360 and you get to the PS3, that's a completely different story because Microsoft made the better controller. Hands down, made the better controller. I don't have any issues using a DualShock 3. It's just that the trigger, for me, it's the triggers on the 360 controller. They feel really good because of the way they're curved for your finger like an actual trigger rather than just being a mound that your finger can slip off of, even though my fingers never slipped off of it. When you get into the PS4 and the Xbox One, I feel like Sony reclaimed their status. Like, so that's how I break it down. 3 wins for Sony and 1 for Microsoft. So I don't know. I would honestly give this category to Sony just for longevity, but it also depends on what category you're looking at, like what generation.
Right. Steve, let you go second on this one. Which controllers have you had more ease with or more functionality with?
I will say I have used all of them but the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, so I'm pretty familiar with how they feel and everything. I didn't really have a problem with the PlayStation controllers because, like I said, I used to own a PlayStation 2 and I've played the PlayStation 1, and then my brother-in-law owns the PS3. So, but if you're going against, the original Xbox controller, that one was god-awful. It's like holding onto a circle and like a Frisbee disc or something and trying to hold onto or and press these buttons in the most awkward fashion. But getting to the Xbox 360, which I still play because I still own it, I find that controller so infinitely more comfortable than using the PlayStation controller. Just because the way my fingers have to bend to use the controller, I don't feel like I'm straining my hand as much, and I can play for longer times without my hands going out on me, which I've had happen playing the PlayStation compared to the Xbox 360. So for me, I would probably choose the 360 controller, so I'd just choose Xbox overall because I like the controller better.
All right, so we've had one argument on each side, Birdman. Where do you go?
It comes down to the type of game. The PlayStation 2 to Xbox, yeah, that's pretty fucking obvious. PlayStation, it's more comfortable. When it comes to 360 and PS3, depends on the game. For shooters, I will always go 360. It's more comfortable because that raised D stick is more accurate, or that raised analog stick.
Or if you're playing like a game like Batman or something, the Arkham games or something.
Yeah, you want more precision. But when I play a fighting game, I want a PlayStation 3 controller. Now, if you want to expand that out to include different types of controllers with these systems, I prefer my fight sticks on PS3 because they're easier to program and make for one. When I actually make my own fight sticks and stuff like that. I just prefer it that way. But going to Xbox One to PS4, I like it for most action games, but not shooters. Like, for example, even playing Destiny, I never feel as accurate as I am in Halo or in COD on a PlayStation 4. I basically, Destiny feels sloppy to me in terms of its accuracy for shooting on the PlayStation 4 because of the little analog stick, whereas on the Xbox One with the raised stick, when I play games like Titanfall, COD, or Halo, I feel damned accurate. I feel ready to rock and roll.
But don't you think that has something
I feel like I've got a better fighter control over my character on PlayStation. I don't know. Like I said, it vastly comes down to the type of game. Plus, there are controllers made by different companies like PowerA and Nyko that are cross-generation. I've got a 360 controller that will play PlayStation 3 games, and it's really comfortable. And maybe if I want to play a shooter like, say, Resistance or Killzone, I'll put in my USB stick that powers that, and I'll go like that. But the PlayStation 3 had a lot more options for controllers, for fight sticks, or steering wheels. Steering wheels on the Xbox One and the 360 are phenomenal. So I think they kind of win there just because they had better first-party support. That and second parties like Mad Catz, whatever. This is hard. This is actually really, really, really hard. I'm gonna say 360. I'm gonna say Microsoft on this one. It's more comfortable, but it barely edges out Sony because I tend to game more with Microsoft stuff. But I love my PlayStation 4 too, and I feel like I'm betraying her by saying this. But I want to play a shooter. I'm gonna go to Xbox. So.
Okay. Getting into our 10th category here, looking at, well, some of you mentioned right away, especially you, Birdman, at the start of the show, but when it comes to marketing, when it comes to ad campaigns, commercials, slogans, and that side of the company, because obviously the company is more than the hardware and the software. In any business, marketing is one part of it. So who does the marketing, the ad campaigns, the commercials, the slogans better, Xbox or PlayStation, Birdman?
Well, working as gaming press for stuff like E3, PAX, etc., and Game Developers Conference, I'm going to say Microsoft, because you look at the way they handle their E3 briefings, the way that they've constructed some of the marketing around their IPs, more specifically the Halo IP, and this is where I'm going to say it was most effective. Remember those ads for Halo 3 where it was like... Believe, and it was the huge battlefield, or it might be the soldiers talking about their experiences fighting alongside the Master Chief. It looked like a movie, and they just when it comes to their certain IPs, they market the hell. I remember seeing commercials for Forza. I see a crap ton of Sunset Overdrive commercials right now. Xbox, I think, just has a better marketing plan, but they know when they fucked up. Most notably, when they had all those lockouts on the Xbox One initially during the E3 briefing, and then they changed their minds 6 months later because they knew all the negative backlash. And I was one of them. Oh God! But they managed to turn things around in 6 months. PlayStation has had some really weird marketing. I'm looking at the PlayStation Baby being one of them. Just Google PlayStation Baby sometime, and you'll see some weird shit.
No, thank you.
Now, they did have a really cool commercial. I think it was last year, maybe into this one. And it was called Oh, What a Perfect Day. And it was just them walking through Killzone, Resistance, Uncharted. And it was just them just walking and singing and beating the crap out of people. And it was really fun. And I also think of the PlayStation 4 ads right now for Destiny are amazing because they're all Sony focused and they're generally really funny. And the production value on them is phenomenal. But Microsoft has more money to throw into it. When you look at the marketing, simply Halo. Sony is they're doing something in original programming. In the next couple of months.
Powers.
But you look at that compared to Halo Nightfall with Ridley Scott.
Oh, there's no comparison.
Forward Unto Dawn. I think Microsoft takes this because they're a juggernaut with it.
I don't see those as marketing though, but I don't see Halo Nightfall or the Forward Unto Dawn as commercials or anything for Halo. I just feel like they're extended things for Halo. To me, a commercial is like a trailer for a movie, not this TV show is a commercial for the game.
But you got Forward Unto Dawn as free stuff anyway. You didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah, but
promotion to keep the IP afloat.
I think the game does that on its own. I don't think the game needed that stuff. That's what I'm saying.
Well, okay. Allow me to paint you a different example. It's like running a half-hour special on TV for, say, an upcoming movie. Like a couple weeks ago, actually, they had Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. They did that 75 years of looking back. That was one giant commercial for the Marvel Universe. That's all it was. Forward Unto Dawn and Nightfall, they're parts of the Halo lore, but they're ultimately a marketing tool.
I can see both sides of that. If we're looking strictly at
documents.
If we're looking strictly though as to how they directly market or put the campaigns forward for their systems or their games, if we were looking at it from that standpoint.
Here's another good one. Microsoft in Toronto did this awesome marketing thing once again for Halo. It was called the UNSC Supply Point. You got to play laser tag with people dressed up as elites, grunts, and brutes. Here's a giant plasma gun. They hand you something that looked like the Halo assault rifle. Here, go play laser tag for 10 minutes. You win? Here's a limited edition copy of Halo 3. Sony has done nothing like that. Now, I went to an Infamous and a Resistance press event a couple years ago. I got a small cup of French fries and a game. I didn't get the kill on Elite. Their events, when Microsoft pulls out all the stops, they go right out. Even the stuff for Reach. They had, like another thing for Reach. They had, like, people defending hills in full Halo Chief armor.
But has Microsoft had anything on the level of Kevin Butler?
I would say the Major Nelson podcast.
That doesn't...
They're both just spokespeople.
Yeah, but Major Nelson didn't appear on TV in ads. Kevin Butler was like the face of that company for almost a year, or if not more. And when I think of that stuff, that's what I think of. Also, I also think of, you know, the one that's in everyone's mind right now is Sony's comeback. Like, their campaign going into this generation, hands down, they've whipped the crap out of Microsoft.
I would say, but they had a really. I would say Microsoft did a better launch lineup because PS4's launch lineup was weak as shit. It didn't get good until 6 months in.
I could say the same thing for Xbox One, but
true. But I felt it was a little bit better because there were more exclusives.
But none that it's subjective because none that interest me. But what I was going to say is the thing is, Sony going up against the Xbox, they whooped them all over the place there. Like, Sony was on top there. Microsoft didn't know what to do. They weren't doing their whole Halo thing. Again, beating that one IP to death. Yes, they put a bunch of money behind Halo because that's all they've got. You know,
okay, like, they appeared in Breaking Bad for the game Rage in season 4. That's marketing money.
Okay,
but people get mentioned in shows. That's marketing money.
Okay, I understand, and I cry foul at all that. Like, none of that stuff attracts my attention. Like, and it actually it kicks me out of the immersion of that show. So that's more detrimental to that stuff than adding anything to that show for me. But all I'm getting at is they, you know, Microsoft is going to throw a lot of money behind Halo because that's really all they've got. If I'm looking at Microsoft, if I look at PlayStation, I look at them kind of like, if I see an ad for a PlayStation thing and it's a game that I'm aware of, like Uncharted or Infamous or hell, even Destiny right now, that's like when I see an ad for Coke or Mountain Dew. Like, why are you advertising for these things? Because they're going to sell. Like, no one's going to stop buying Doritos because you stop putting a Dorito commercial on TV.
But if you show someone a picture of Cole McGrath next to the Master Chief, who's going to get recognized first?
Halo, I understand. But no one...
That's more effective marketing. Media saturation. It's the Disney strategy.
I give them that they won the 360 generation. I don't think they've had a good marketing campaign on the Xbox One other than backpedaling for every single thing that they set out to do and giving into consumer backlash. Like, I would
agree with you there. They haven't had a super strong title yet. We'll wait and see what happens with Halo 5.
Or Message. Like, they've been backpedaling for the last year. That's what their marketing campaign has been for the last year, is making up. They didn't come out the gate with a strong thing. Sony is still coasting on what they came out the gate with. Microsoft has been backpedaling and gaining favor. Sony's still moving forward. And Sony also had them on the ropes with the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox One. So if I'm kind of going by the generation here and who's had the better campaigns, I'm going to go with Sony. Because the 360, Microsoft puts money behind Halo, and they also trumped everybody on the 360 in the 360 generation. But I can't give it to Microsoft overall.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's going to be 3 years down the road. We'll see who comes out of this.
Steve, what do you think as far as the different ads and commercials that you've seen? Which have been more effective to you?
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking that they're pretty much about the same to me. I mean, I don't really. I mean, over the years, I'd say that like PlayStation seems to have had a lot more memorable ones over in the past, but they all kind of mesh together.
Fair enough.
I don't really have an opinion of them.
I honestly don't, like, if I'm thinking just in my memory, like Steve said, I remember more Sony commercials that stood out, or that we didn't really talk about their little slogans or their little,
PlayStation.
Yeah, that type of stuff. But I mean, I always was drawn more towards the Sony commercials, even though it didn't necessarily motivate me to buy them. But I remember more of them. I'm not saying they were more effective but it seemed like for a long time that, like Powers was saying, the Xbox was on the ropes. It seemed like, maybe that's an outsider seeing things wrong, but it seemed like they were clinging by the hair on their chinny chin there for a while. I don't know how accurate that is. But
Well, the 360, I just want to make sure that it's the Xbox versus the PlayStation 2 when PlayStation 2 was beating the crap out of them.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Not the 360. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah. Obviously, once 360 came out, it was a little bit different, and they kind of righted the ship a little bit and saved themselves, it seemed like. But I still, over time, and maybe it's unfair since PlayStation was around longer, maybe I'm thinking of more of those early commercials, but I just remember more of the commercials, more of the jingles, more of the slogans from the PlayStation side. And I'm not saying Xbox is all, one game or not. I'm not intelligent enough to say that, but I don't remember any commercials about Xbox that are not involving Halo.
The other thing I would say, and this is just subjective to me, is that I don't watch the TV that I watch does not have commercials in it because I torrent everything. So I don't see what ads that Sony plays on TV. I don't see what ads Microsoft plays. The ads that I see are the ones that run in front of YouTube or or just someone or movies or someone talking about something like in my Twitch stream. And I'm not talking like a promoted tweet, but I'm talking about people just talking in general.
Right.
I'm subject for some reason, and I try to be biased, but for some reason I feel like I'm subjected to more Sony stuff, and it might be because when I go to YouTube, I'm searching out like how to get this trophy or something. So of course the first ad to pop up is going to be a Sony ad or something like that. But like in the limited amount of space that I am personally exist in, and where I am susceptible to marketing, I see more PlayStation stuff than I do Microsoft. Now, they may have a stronger TV campaign that I'm not aware of. So,
fair enough. I think that's kind of the case too for a lot of us nowadays. Commercials are almost a thing of the past when it comes to TV. I don't watch any commercials on TV. I can even be home when something's airing live. I'll still record it and watch it an hour later, just so I don't have to watch the commercials. So
that's why I was mentioning embedded marketing. So it's part of the kind of narrative. Like for example, tonight during Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Fitz and Mac were playing Halo Master Chief Collection. What a coincidence on its release date.
Oh, the money. Follow the money. We'll hold that one off, then we'll call it a tie for that category. Since Steve wasn't voting, we'll call it one for each with Dot on the Xbox side, Powers on the PlayStation side. We'll see if that tie comes back or if we'll have to settle it or not. But moving on to the 11th category here, we talked a little bit about this kind of in the peripheral when we were talking about some of the different games, but if you were specifically comparing the PlayStation Move and the Xbox Kinect, which has a better interactive, as we get closer to the virtual reality, interactive move type of functionality? Kinect.
Wii.
Only when they got Wii Motion Plus. And now they've kind of abandoned that with the Wii U.
Well, Wii Motion Plus is still in the Wii U controllers.
Yeah, but most games use the Pro Controller.
Well, here's my one aside, real quick, off topic here. Maybe I don't know if Dodd, if you will know this or not. I'm trying to work this out. I bought the Wii Sports for the Wii U because I love Wii U. I love Wii bowling. Love it. It is broken as all get out on the Wii U, and I cannot figure out why. Like, it will not, like, it does not respond the same way that, like, Wii bowling does. Like, the Wii U bowling does not respond the same way that the Wii bowling does. Do you have it? Have you experienced this?
I haven't played around with it, no.
Okay.
I mean, the only games I really played on my Wii U were, like, Mario, Smash Brothers, and, like, Zelda.
I just remember playing Punch-Out on the Wii, and then just not being able to move my arms the next day.
Skyward Sword, if you want to work out, that'll piss you off.
That was my experience with that. I have played more. I actually have somewhat of experience with both with the Wii controllers, the Wiimote, and the Kinect. I've never used the PlayStation Move, so I can't really speak to that. But the Xbox Kinect's pretty functional, pretty easy to use. There's a lot of software out there for it. So my girlfriend and I have a lot of fun doing the different Xbox Kinect stuff. So I can't speak to the PlayStation Move. But,
PlayStation Move had a really good launch setup with basically their version of the Wii Sports thing. They had this gladiator fighting game that was a lot of fun. They had this archery game that was a lot of fun. And other games like Killzone 3 and Resistance 3 tried to put the PlayStation Move into its game. In fact, right now I'm actually looking at it's my Killzone 3 limited edition, and it's one of the rifles in the game, and you put the PlayStation Move controller in the top slot, and you put the bottom Wiimote thing in the Wii nunchuck in the bottom thing. That's all I can think to call it. And you'd shoot the screen. It never worked out right. But I always felt PlayStation Move was more accurate in terms of gesture-based, in terms of body movement. The Kinect had it, and it's mostly because of harmonics and Dance Central. Now, other developers like Ubisoft and Capcom even Namco tried it with their Dragon Ball Z game, which is hilariously stupid. And Kinect Fighters Within from Ubisoft. But you look at a company like Dance Central a company like Harmonix that did Dance Central. They also did Fantasia, which I talked about earlier, and stuff like that. The Kinect technology is great. I don't see a lot of PlayStation. I don't think there's going to be PlayStation Move for PlayStation 4, but it's got the camera, and it can track you and do stuff.
Yeah, the Move's built into the controller now, but there's no games that, like, use that as a tracking thing.
Yeah, there's no ice cream cones.
For me, the Kinect wins for voice controls. Like, now here's the thing. I have the Move camera for my PlayStation 4, and I had trouble getting it to do what I wanted to do before the latest update. Now I can't get it to do anything because I don't know what the freaking voice commands are. They're not natural voice commands. The Kinect,
I've never used the PlayStation 4 voice commands, not once.
They worked, like I said before. Now they're convoluted, but the Kinect, like the voice commands in the Kinect work. I don't really care about the whole motion tracking thing of either one of them because I'm not that type of a gamer. But just solely going off of the utility of being able to talk to my console and get it to do what I want it to do, I go with Kinect, hands down.
Yeah, like with my Kinect, it turns on my TV. I can control my stereo through it. If I want to say, hey, box, go watch AMC, it'll do that. Nice. Or if I want to talk to you guys on Skype, I just have to say, box, go to Skype, and it'll do that.
We're lucky we're not losing him right now as he gives all these commands out.
That's why I'm saying box.
Xbox, turn off.
Really sensitive, I'll tell you that.
Steve, you have some experience with the Kinect, right?
Yeah.
Are you in agreement with what they're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much have to go with the Xbox Connect. I don't have any experience with the PlayStation Move. I've used all their other accessories, but I haven't used that. But the Kinect is pretty much spot on. I mean, for the most part, and it's there's a lot of other applications to it besides just gaming. So,
All right. Okay. Well, we don't necessarily need to go and rehash some of the arguments we've made when it comes to the games and the controllers, etc. But we can still kind of look at these in a more general sense, and we're going to compare generation by generation. I know we've touched on it a little bit, but we'll break it down one by one here. So in the first, we won't compare PlayStation 1 to anything, just like we won't compare handhelds. But if we're going PlayStation 2 versus Xbox, if you only have if you're back in whatever year that was, good Lord, a long time ago, and you only have at that point, what, $200? I don't know how much they cost. $300?
Yeah.
You can only buy one of them, Powers. Are you buying the original Xbox or are you buying PlayStation 2?
PS2.
I figured that would probably be an easy one, Steve. What are you doing?
PS2.
Birdman?
PS2.
All right. So
Slam Dunk. There's more stuff to do.
There's more games, and you get more bang for your buck with your $300 too, because unlike the Xbox, the PS2 could play DVDs out the get-go.
Yeah, you didn't need that stupid kit.
Exactly. Yep. Now, remember what it was when we had the contest between Blu-ray and
HD.
We had two different setups at Target, having both of them, and it was like immediately we're like, that's not going to work.
I actually had an HD DVD drive propping up a couch at one point.
Nice. Okay, so fast forward a few more years, and the price tag probably goes up at least of $100 or $200 more. I don't know. I never bought any of these, but you only have so much money, and you have to choose to buy the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360. Steve, which one are you buying?
360.
This is such an asshole question. I'll tell you why.
Why?
Blu-ray, you fucks. Because I love 1080p. I love that rich surround sound. Because I'm a movie guy. PlayStation 3, fuck you.
Yep. Still one of the best Blu-ray players on the market.
Yep. I use it every day.
So, Powers, you're buying a PlayStation 3 instead of an Xbox 360?
Well,
he already owns
Hang on. No.
If you only have one.
I own them for everybody else. No. Okay. Just so everyone, I'm just want to share this story real quick. I bought an Xbox 360 before I bought a PlayStation 3, simply because it was cheaper. I got my Xbox in 2006, which is when the PlayStation 3 came out, and it was much cheaper than the PlayStation 3. And I just bought an HD TV, my first one ever. I wanted to play HD games, so I didn't have a lot of money, so I went with the Xbox 360. So, if we're going by history, I would have purchased the Xbox 360. Looking back, if I had been smart, I probably would have saved up a little bit more and got myself a PlayStation 3, which I ended up getting a year later. And the PlayStation 3 is just, again, just like the PlayStation 2 was before, it's more bang for your buck. You get a really good Blu-ray player. If you got one of the earlier ones, you also got the ability to play all your PlayStation 2 games.
So even with all the improvements that the 360 controller made and the different things that you guys said in other categories, PlayStation 3 still wins out?
Backwards compatibility, too. Plus, you could use a PlayStation 3 as a shitty computer.
Yeah, but the other thing, too, is, to me, the controller, I've never had a problem with the controllers. Not like I don't like this system because of the controller issue.
Right.
So I would honestly, if I'd had the money at that time, I would have gone with the PlayStation 3 again, because I was a Sony guy. Like, that's what I was playing. Like, all my TV was a Sony, my stereo was a Sony, everything was a Sony.
Dad, you said something real quick. Were you saying that you would vote for PlayStation as well on this one?
I really would, and I actually bought a PlayStation. I bought my first PlayStation in 2008 because I really wanted Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, but my first HD system was a 360 because I really wanted Dead Rising. The thing that would sway me is Blu-ray. I like being in the media and going to college for this stuff. We're always on the lookout for the next format war. And when it was between HD, DVD, and Blu-ray, the thing that won that war was porn. Yep. Whatever format porn goes with will be the winner. And when I saw a lot of companies signing on with like Blu-ray, like Vivid and Hustler and all that, because I have friends in the adult industry. I'm thinking, you know what? It's going to be Blu-ray. You watch 5, 10 years down the road, and actually Dave right now is sorting my Blu-rays, and I have way more Blu-rays than I have DVDs. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, me too.
So it's got to be that. Ultimately, it's going to come down to media capability. Plus, setting up the media server on the PlayStation 3, 10 times easier than doing it through the Xbox 360.
Yep, because it just shows up right there on the dashboard.
That just like bang works.
I like the XMB too. I mean, for the 360, it really didn't get any better for me than the blades. I love the blades. The blades are the best. Yes. I love the blades, but the XMB is I don't know what people's problem with it is. It's elegant.
Like a book.
It's perfect.
Yeah, you know exactly where everything is, and it never moves.
Nope.
It's gorgeous. It's honestly a beautiful thing.
No ads.
Yeah, that's true.
Now,
except
for the one
that little news ticker, but whatever.
You can turn it off.
For the one that fewer of us probably have experience with, but I know both the mics can talk about it a little bit. If we're going to what's currently out there with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, if you can only buy one, what's the better buy, Birdman?
This comes tough for me because both of them have really big perks, and it ultimately comes down to exclusives. For me, I hate answering this. I really do. I really like the Xbox One because I like the fact that finally we're getting dedicated media. There's going to be DLNA support soon. Supports external hard drives and MP3s and everything now via its preview program. I like the interactive experiences that I get with it. It can play Blu-rays, so it wins points there. And when Microsoft was pushing at their E3 conference how it's supposed to be an entertainment hub, it really is. And the fact that my wife can use it, who's not very technologically inclined, that really says for simplicity of use. So I love my PlayStation 4. Do not get me wrong, because I love how simple it is to get around certain, shall we say, regional lockouts. But it's got to be Xbox One. But it's, like I said, it comes down to exclusives, and I love Infamous, and I love Sunset Overdrive. I love Halo. I love The Last of Us. Yeah, it's going to be Xbox for right now.
Powers?
I have to go. I mean, I bought a PlayStation 4 first. I do not regret buying a PlayStation 4 first. I've had the Xbox One for almost a year now, and I've only bought 2 games for it, and that was Titanfall and Sunset Overdrive.
You probably like Dead Rising 3. It's really good.
I don't care for the Dead Rising games. The PlayStation 4, to me, it's exactly what Sony advertised it was going to be when they did their press thing in February of last year. I mean, granted, some features weren't there out of the bag, but unlike the PlayStation 3, where they made all these wild promises and half of them never came to fruition, they made a lot of wild promises at theirs, and they're still giving them to us. They just added the share play thing. They have said that external hard drive support is coming. Not to mention, it's really easy to swap out the hard drive in it anyways.
But it wipes your data when you switch them, and I know you can back it up. That's such a pain in the ass. You have to plug the old drive in it.
See, I did it really early before I started buying a bunch of games. I dropped a hybrid drive in there, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. But I like the simplicity of it. I do not like the Xbox One dashboard. I think it's convoluted and hard to figure out what it's doing. The PlayStation 4 is an evolution of the XMB, and it still works, and it's just faster. It's all around. It's faster than the PlayStation 3, which makes it a lot easier to get around and find what you're doing.
And with the most recent update, you can actually sort things now.
Yep.
I've got so many games installed on my hard drive, I actually have to start sorting them now.
They keep improving. They've improved it, and they've been able to do that because they haven't had to backpedal like Microsoft has. They've been able to keep pushing the system forward. The only thing I will knock the PlayStation 4 for, and I know, Dodd, you said you like the PlayStation 4's Twitch app. The one thing I prefer over the PlayStation 4's Twitch app, or the Xbox One's Twitch app, or PlayStation 4, is that if I want to view comments on the Xbox One, The comments don't show up in my stream. The PlayStation 4, if I want to view comments at the same time I'm playing, those comments show up in your stream too. I don't.
See, I like being able to see what's being said.
I do too, but I don't think that needs to be broadcast to the people that are watching, is what I'm saying.
Okay, okay, I read you.
But that said, I got really excited when they added in the party chat to be allowed into the Twitch stream, which has been a lot of fun. So anyways, long story short, I chose PlayStation 4 first, and I would choose it again in a heartbeat.
All right, Steve, that means we got a tie.
One thing I just want to drop in, I would have bought a PlayStation 4 first if they'd had a competitive fighter right out of the gate. That's one thing Xbox One has, and that's probably just subjective to me because I love killer and I love fighting games. And the PS4 only really has Injustice as far as I know. I can't think of any other, maybe Dive Kick or Skullgirls, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And it sucks that Ultra Street Fighter 4 wasn't ported. That makes no sense.
Yet.
I friggin' hope so, man. Because if then I get my PS4 fight stick. See you later.
All right, Steve, we got a tie going for this one between the PS4 and the Xbox One. I know you don't have either of them. If you were given a pile of cash and you were able to drop it on one, which one would you buy?
Like lazy people on Xbox One, I'm just saying. Voice command.
I'm almost going to go Xbox One just because I like the Xbox structure more than I like the PlayStation One at this point.
All right. Living on the edge. All right, just tallying up some stuff while we get to our final overall category, which we always end wars with a non-distinct category, with just looking at the overall categories that we're comparing. So if you're just comparing Xbox and PlayStation, which do you prefer? What's the better company overall, given all the different categories we've talked about and all the other categories that we could have talked about? What company do you prefer, Steve, PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox.
One vote for Xbox. Dodd?
Xbox, and it mostly just comes down to all the support they've given the competitive scene over the years, and it gave me Master Chief. As much as I love Ellie and Joel, I'll always be Spartan 117.
And Michael Powers, I think I know where you're voting, but let you say it.
You think you know, but you don't know. No, I'm serious. I'm going to go... And this is... Okay, I'm going to go with Microsoft.
I'm really glad I stopped drinking at that moment, because I was actually going to spit it out thinking, holy shit.
And here's why.
That's interesting.
On person.
Yes. I'm going Microsoft just because the other two did. No, I'm going with Microsoft because I've been listening to a lot of older podcasts from like 2006 when the PS3 first came out, when it was ramping up and stuff like that. And I heard there was a lot of talk about there was a shift in the mentality of Sony as a platform holder. They went from being a platform holder and supporting third parties to being a platform holder and supporting their own games. And that is evident by how great games like Last of Us and Uncharted and Infamous look on their system versus other games, cross-platform games. Basically what happened from the PS2 to the PS3, Sony stopped supporting third-party developers. They were on their own to make games work on their system.
Architecture wasn't that friendly either.
Exactly. And they weren't willing to help. They helped a little bit with middleware, but beyond that, it was like, you're on your own. If you can't make it work, you can't make it work. We'll deal with a game running at 30 frames a second over 60 on one system. And that, to me, that speaks volumes about them. And I feel like, I want to say they've turned that corner and they at least made hardware that was easier to develop for this generation. And the games that have been cross-platform over the last year, which it sounds like that trend just broke with Assassin's Creed Unity. The games have cross-platform games have run better on the PS4 than they have on the Xbox One. Now I don't know if that's because the hardware is just easier to develop for, or because Sony's actually going out there now again and helping developers, make things work better. But if I'm, and I have no evidence to support that they are. So if I assume that they're not, and we all know there's still a platform holder with strong first-party titles, I got to give it to Microsoft, because Microsoft's still out there. They went out there last generation with the 360, and they were helping these third-party developers make better games. They helped with the marketing for these games and made them synonymous with the 360. And while they're trying to clean up their image with the Xbox One, they're doing a really good job of that. But their marketing has died down. Their help with third party marketing has died down. But I just feel like they might not be as gamer forward as Sony is this one, but I still feel like they care about the quality of the games on their system. So I just have the 2 generations, and again, I have no proof that Sony is helping or not helping third-party developers. But because I don't have one either way or the other, I'm just going to go with Microsoft, because they care about the games.
Interesting. We've had a lot of different firsts so far in the life of GCRN WarZ. We've had, a few episodes back, we had our first tie that we had to have the listeners help us out, but I don't think I've ever seen this before, where we get to the overall who is the better company, which is what we've basically been debating over the course of the whole episode. And we've had a unanimous, all 3 debaters go with a company that does not win overall, if we actually go by the categories that we were talking about. So not to kill the drum roll moment, but the winner based on the category votes overall is PlayStation by an 8-6 margin. Even though all 3 people voted Xbox as the overall better company. I've never seen that happen before. So yeah, 8 categories for PlayStation. Obviously, they dominated a lot of the games categories, so maybe that had part to do with it. They also won when it came to the PS2 versus Xbox, the PS3 versus Xbox 360, the online experience, and a bunch of the different games in the character library, whereas Xbox had the sports games, controllers, the Kinect, Xbox One versus PS4, and the overall vote. So 8-6, it goes to PlayStation. And if you're going by individual votes, it's 26-18 PlayStation. So PlayStation wins in both of the voting metrics, even though all 3 of you voted as Xbox as the overall better company. Final thoughts before we wrap this one up, Steve?
It's kind of surprising overall that we all basically chose Xbox. So out in the ending point of it, but can't say I'm surprised that it won in that terms, but I'm not surprised either that PlayStation 1 is the overall actual winner.
Final thoughts, Powers?
Just to back up, I thought about it again with my overall better company, going with Microsoft. It just, regardless of whether or not Sony's helping developers this generation over last generation, they have done something, to prove that they are willing to go along with what gamers say or what gamers want. Is that with the 360 and the PS3, Sony came out with a $600 machine, and everyone scoffed at it. It was slow to take off, but they didn't change. They just kept beating that drum. It's like, what? We're going to make the content. We're going to make the games. You're going to buy this system at, whatever price we tell you to buy it at. This generation that we're in now, Microsoft came out with a completely wrong message. The gamers didn't like it. They got really vocal. They didn't understand, the Kinect needing to be bundled. They didn't understand the need for always on DRM, always on internet connections. And Microsoft listened to that and backpedaled on it. Granted, Sony came out the gate with the right message. So they didn't have to do anything differently, but it just seems like they're more willing to they're more willing to make compromises. It's more like Microsoft is being Microsoft, and I feel like Sony is kind of takes more of an Apple-like stance when it comes to their hardware, where Apple's kind of like, you know what, we made it this way, this is how it's going to work, and you're going to like it, and if you don't like it, you're not going to buy it, we don't really care. Whereas Microsoft's kind of like, oh, we made this operating system, but you want the start menu back? Okay, well, in the next update, we're going to put the start menu back in there. Rather than trying to innovate, they're just kind of like stuck in this perpetual state of they can't do anything because no one wants them to do anything different, but they're willing to stay there for whatever reason. So I that's kind of one of the reasons why, I like that they were. I wish that Microsoft would have done what their original vision for the Xbox One, but they didn't. I wish they would have done that. I really do, so we could all see what it was, but they didn't. And I don't know. I still think I think they're the better company because they're more willing to work with their fans than Sony, who's just kind of like, this is how it's like. Sony's very Apple. It's like, this is the hardware we made. This is the price point we put it at, and you're gonna like it. It worked for them with the PS. It worked for them with the PlayStation. It worked for them for the PlayStation 2, and it's working for the PlayStation 4. They just tripped up with the PlayStation 3, and I think it was just because of that $600 price point.
Fair enough. I like the way you're arguing that. Birdman, what do you think? Final thoughts on how this all shaped out and what you think overall of the companies real quick.
Owning both consoles is a lot of fun. It gives me a lot of variety in my gaming experience, and both have their pros and cons that we've discussed over the last hour and change. I like the fact that Microsoft listens to fans. If there's a problem, they'll do what they can. They always have a person on Twitter willing to talk to you. Major Nelson, at any public event, will always hang out with you. I had a conversation with him at PAX 2012. I really like the Xbox brand. Sony, they're getting there, and I really think they're going to have some fantastic games. If games like Infamous and The Last of Us are any indication, Microsoft's got to watch their ass.
Well, let's not forget about Uncharted here. I mean,
yeah, Uncharted. But see, The Last of Us is a game that made me cry and depressed me for days. A Microsoft title outside of probably anything that's cross-platform hasn't done that. And I really give props to the storytellers at Sony. So, Sony, they've got the market lead right now in terms of outselling Xbox. And I hope that leads to bigger and better games across both consoles. As Microsoft tries to catch up and Sony tries to increase its lead, I hope it leads to innovations in storytelling and gaming. And if you have the capability to own both consoles, do it. Because you'll never look back.
You're less likely to argue if you own both of them, too.
There you go. Good advice. All right, everyone. I'd like to thank Steve, Mike, and Michael for joining me today in the Warzone. And, of course, thanks to all of you guys for listening as well. There are several ways to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show. First and foremost, visit the website, www.geekcastradio.com. You'll find this WarZ post. You can comment. You can start debates. You can get in on the conversation that's already happening there once this goes up. You can ask questions, give us feedback there. That's the best way. We always respond to all the comments there. You can leave the show feedback in iTunes. Please do that. You can follow all of us on Twitter. Mine is at Optimus Solo. The show network would be at Geekcast Radio. Steve, what's your Twitter?
At SCP-21.
Powers, your Twitter?
At Booth Ninja 81.
And Birdman.
You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at BirdmanDodd.
All right, and also become a fan of us on Facebook. That way you can keep up to date with all the things that we post, all the blogs, all the podcasts as they go up. TFG and Mike will keep you up to date on our Facebook page. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of GCRN WarZ. We hope that you'll join us next time when we'll actually start our second ever GCRN WarZ tournament. And if you liked the topic of video games today, you're in luck for when that tournament comes up. So for now, I'm Optimus Solo, and we'll see you next time in the Warzone.
You've just listened to GCRN WarZ on GeekCastRadio.com. If you would like to leave feedback on the show, there are many ways to do so. You can visit the website, GeekCastRadio.com, where you can comment on the episode in all of our different podcasts. Be sure to rate our show on iTunes and leave us feedback. Follow us on Twitter at GeekCastRadio. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can email us at feedback@geekcastradio.com. call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you were leaving the message for and your name. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.